Here we go. Episode 1, kind of a new setup for Coach's Corner. I mean, it's still got the same thing. I mean, we'll have coaches on, but we're setting it up a little bit different, a little more podcast style. We're gonna have some fun, talk a little bit about Midwest, national recruiting, 7-on-7, whatever we kind of want. But I'm Corey. That's Clint, the coach. He's the everything of this show, and we just want to have a good time. We just want to talk, answer questions, and kind of go play some games, and maybe bring some guests on, and just kind of give like the viewers, the listeners, all a little bit more behind the scenes of what goes on in Rivals and what's going on in recruiting and everything like that. But like, what's going on, Clint? Tell me what's happening in the Midwest. What's happening with everything?
Hey, just living that beautiful Midwest life, as you can see in the background. Living it up outside right now. I'm actually down at the in-laws. Brought my son down to see them. I'll be flying back to the Midwest soon. But I'm happy to do the first episode. The possibilities are endless, man. But from at least poolside down in Arizona to kick things off. But I'm excited about this, man. This will be good. It'll be a chance for us to actually be ourselves and not be all buttoned up and talk about recruiting all the time. And let's just let it rip, man.
I was going to say it has a rebrand feel to it, but it's funny that they're going to go from, real exclusive interviews from, Notre Dame to this and that to Corey. So it feels like a perfect, proper rebuild for us. And that's just how we roll around here,
Hey, I feel a lot more comfortable just talking to Corey,
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, I was going to ask you kind of like to start off the show a little bit, the Midwest, a close, I don't have many sources out here as I'm on the social team, but there is one guy that I have a good connection with, and he always tells me, Corey Sims. I know he came to a Rivals camp. I mean, I wasn't super involved with watching him the whole time, but that is a name I've been hearing, and I just feel like I'm seeing him a lot on social. But I mean, obviously he's a kid in your region, and just tell me what's going on. I mean, why are people telling me out here in the West Coast about Corey Sims who lives in the Midwest?
Dude, Sims is a dog, man. I'm telling you. So I went down, really to, scout the area in general to St. Louis. I usually spend a lot of time down there. I hadn't been down there yet this season. Wingo was recruiting, so I went down to shoot a bunch of content with him. And then also, just connect with all my guys, connect with St. Louis, hit up some practices, hit up some schools. But Sims, he's at CBC, same high school as Jeremiah McClellan, so he doesn't necessarily get the hype right now, but he's a 2025. Now, when we had him at our Rivals camp, he really wasn't on the national radar at that point. He's a young kid, super long, tall, big frame. I think his dad played college basketball, was a very good player. But he was like a dude that you knew that he had a chance. And he was at CBC, which has really been a wide receiver factory. You think of guys, I mean, Cam Babb, Cam Brown, both went to Ohio State. Babb had some injuries, but has been with the program for a while. Cam Brown did a little bit of everything for Ohio State. Jeremiah McClellan is committed to Ohio State right now. And they've just churned out receivers. Scott Pingle, the head coach there, dude can coach, big offensive guy, smart as they come. Like I was visiting with him when I went to go and see Jeremiah and the rest of the guys at CBC, and I was like, man, why? Are you just not want to coach in college? Like, what's the deal? And he's like, Clint, believe it or not, nobody's pursued me hard, and I'm like, this guy's a no-brainer, just from my time, coaching college ball. He's as good as the big-time coaches that I've been around. So that's a little sidebar there. But Corey's just really, really developed over the past year. His frame, it can just hold so much weight. He's so big. He's so long. You turn on the film, and he almost looks like a giraffe out there because he eats up so much ground. He's still getting used to his body. He's growing by the day. His hands are massive. I remember sitting there in the school, and we're dabbing up and everything like that. And I'm like, bro, your hands are freaking huge. And then I turned on his recent film, and I'm like, this guy eats up so much ground. just going around to schools in the area, people are like, J-Mac's the real deal. And here's the thing with McClellan, you talk to anybody around there and they're like, he is one of the best. And think about all the receivers that have come out of there. Guys like Jameson Williams, they're like, he is the most polished receiver we've seen. And this is like people who do not like CBC in the area talking ball. Now everybody loves Jeremiah, but I was hearing, they're like, I'm telling you, Sims is the next big time guy. And when he was at our camp, like, you could see it, but he wasn't there yet. But that's why I wanted to have him at our camp, because I thought he had that upside. And he's definitely taken that next step in his development. I mean, this week alone, after I went down there, I kind of, talked to some of my contacts and was just like, here are my thoughts. And, wrote an article about him. But I think, people read the articles, coaches read the articles, coaches' friends read the articles, and they'll pass a kid on. And St. Louis goes hard for their people. So I'm sure everybody was pumping him out. And this week, I mean, he picked up Ole Miss, West Virginia, Michigan. And just when I was about to write the article, I get a text from him saying, hey, Wisconsin's offering next. And, they offered today. I mean, he is absolutely blowing up. He's the next in a great line of what has been a receiver factory at CBC. His upside is phenomenal. The biggest question I always had on him is, as an undeveloped, or not undeveloped, but just at a raw stage in his career, you got to try to gauge and project speed. And, guys like him who just cover so much ground with each step, it's hard to, without a verified time, hard to see how fast they really are. But then you turn on the film and you're like, each step is 3 yards. This dude's rolling, even though he's not churning the same way as a smaller guy would. But I see him as a guy who's going to eventually be able to take the top off, those big hands, he catches the ball with his hands. He can snap off routes, with the best of them, even at a raw stage of his career. And I just, you turn on the film, and as a college coach, especially if you're an established program, and I think that's why we're seeing, the Ole Misses and the Michigans and those type of programs coming in on them. It's like, all right, we have guys who can play right now. This kid's only a 2025. We have to get in on him right now, because when he's a finished product, this dude's got a chance to be big time. And that's what I see out of Corey. And I absolutely love him. We've been texting almost every day now, because he, he learned from one of the best media guys there is in Jeremiah McClellan, who I absolutely love. He got him coaching him up over there, and Corey's learning the game and everything like that. But I think Corey's got a chance to be special. And I think the college coaches are seeing that now too. And he's blowing up, man.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, when you're naming off some of those names, especially at that Rivals camp this year, it was pretty loaded, especially at the skills position. I mean, we had Nitro out there. The small, sadly, I'm very bad with names right now, but it was just like Marsh was out there. Who was the kid that was making all those big plays? He's a little bit, a little more on that slot receiver size. Well, who made like the big one-handed catches?
Well, that's always Kai and Barry Johnson, but we also had he's committed to Wisconsin. He's in the Rivals 250.
I was say he's very, very good, but that was just what I was going to say. It was like Sims just kind of got overlooked when I was like, I know he came, I just don't remember, because sadly, because they had all those big names and big playmakers, and plays were just always happening. Unfortunately, you can only be so many places at one time, especially just what I was trying to do in the moment. But yeah, I'm excited for him.
Sure.
Everyone's talking about him right now, and I just had to ask our man in the Midwest what's going on. But I was going to ask you too.
He's big time.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was going to ask you, for all the listeners or viewers, I think it's going to get released maybe Wednesday, but today's the 7th. The biggest news coming out of the Midwest, obviously, is Nick Brooks decommitting from Iowa, who I think, for a Tuesday on November 7th, definitely shocked the world, especially in the recruiting and in the Midwest. But what's going on there? I'll kind of as I was reading your article, he had a top 5. What was it? Iowa, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida State. Are any of those teams coming back in play? Are they still involved? What is going on? Most kids that are from Iowa stay in Iowa. So what's going on? I mean, I don't know what to.
I mean, dude, I was as shocked as you. So he like literally moved back to Iowa, I think, to be close to Iowa and to go to Iowa. You know, he felt like it was home there. He had family there. He's got a big family. But I mean, he's a kid, and like there's uncertainty right now. You know, his offensive coordinator, who has an O-line background, no longer going to be there. You don't know what the Iowa offensive staff's going to look like moving forward. There's questions, you know, does Kirk Ferentz step down at the end of the year? I mean, so like uncertainty to a guy who's looking for stability in the recruiting process and the school he's going to. I mean, that's a big reason people go to Iowa. You know that staff is going to be there and they love those guys. And there's not too many places in the nation where you know that the staff's going to be there. And so I haven't talked to Nick since. And so what really got me started on it, well, I got a message from, you know, our Texas Tech pub, our Iowa pubs. We were doing a three-way message, and they're like, you know, when I first saw him put out the offer from Texas Tech, I was like, that doesn't seem like Nick. Like, he wouldn't just throw out an offer when he's super solid with Iowa. I mean, just talking with him, and this, you hear guys being like dream school and all this, but like, it was literally his dream to commit to Iowa, and he was so excited to be there. There was no question about it. And then you see the tweet, and it just didn't line up what he's done in his recruitment. He hasn't been a big attention guy. He hasn't been a big posting the offers guy. Hasn't been, hey, can we interview every week? You know, he's not one of those guys. And so I saw that, and I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. But hey, it is what it is. And then, you know, I get the text messages being like, hey, he's going to come down on a visit. And I'm like, okay, this really doesn't align. And then you start thinking, you're like, you know what? These guys have one opportunity to be courted like this in their life. There's no other time. Maybe free agency, if you're lucky enough to make it that far and be a guy that everybody wants and you're just taking bids. But that's business. Like, recruiting's different, especially people who are great recruiters and genuinely recruit based off relationships. Like, it is one time in your life where like you're meeting all these phenomenal people, you're getting all these phenomenal opportunities. Did you lose me?
No, you're good now. You're good. You're
all right.
The picture was going, but the audio was still fine.
Okay. You know, people want to pay to have you come down, and it's like, why wouldn't you take advantage of that? So I get that. So first I'm like, oh, this doesn't kind of line up with his recruitment. And then it's like, oh, he's going down there. It's like, oh, you want to take an opportunity to check something out. And our Texas Tech guy, Ben Golan, was kind of like, I don't know, like, this might be legit. Miles Thompson, a kid from the same area in Iowa, who is either very close with Nick or related to him, is on the team as a freshman. He's a track star playing football down there as well. And so this started having some legs to it. So he goes down there, and I'm still thinking, I'm like, because of my experience with him and just knowing what he values, I'm like, oh yeah, he's taking advantage of this whole opportunity. Who wouldn't? Why wouldn't you? But then the decommitment happened. I was like, wow, I was off on that one. But then you go back and you start thinking about it. You're like, okay, he went to a stable program with coaches he know were going to be there for a long time, family close to home. Well, all of a sudden the stability isn't necessarily there. And I mean, Iowa's still in the football playoff rankings. They might be winning games 10-7 at Wrigley Field or whatever the score was, but like, they're a phenomenal football team. They're going to produce offensive linemen. They're going to produce tight ends. Like, they're going to produce a lot of defensive players. Like, they're phenomenal on defense. So, offensive line isn't necessarily like, oh, I'm not going to catch, 90 balls. I'm not going there. So it just kind of, shook me a little for a surprise. But looking back at it, you kind of see the thought process. You see where it's going. Now, you ask about the original top five. Now, he's a phenomenal player with phenomenal size. And I don't want to say that he's far from a finished product right now, but if he is able to reach his ceiling, he could be downright dominant. I mean, the kid is massive, and for a kid his size to move his feet and everything like that, yeah, there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some development, but you think of him as a finished product, and you're looking for a dude who can just absolutely maul people and throw guys out the bar. Like that's what he can be. And so I don't know what the the recruiting situation is at the other schools in his top five. He's been committed there for a couple months now, and that was really crunch time where guys started coming off the board. So some of these schools are full. But, a guy of his talent, there's going to be plenty who are looking for him. It looks like, I mean, this is total speculation until I talk to him. But I mean, like, I would say if there's any team to beat right now, it's got to be Texas Tech, right? I mean, he just went on a visit there, decommits a couple days later. Family, a really good friend, is down there. My dad coached at Texas Tech 2 years ago. I've been down there. It's a cool environment. Like, it's different than the Midwest. It's got a Midwestern feel where everybody's super nice. They love their football. It's a fun place to be. But it's a very family environment. So, I mean, there are some similarities, although it's total polar opposite in terms of overall culture, I guess. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. If I had to say there was a school in the lead just off speculation, I would say it has to be Texas Tech right now. But until I talk to him, I really don't know. And until I see, as we close in on signing days and everybody's board kind of changes and, schools are poaching guys from another. I mean, like Iowa had Caden Proctor in the boat until signing day last year, and he signs with Alabama. And so you never know how these things are going to go. And, he's a guy that guys are going to want. And I'm interested, I think, first and foremost, to see does he make a quick flip, or is this something that plays out for a while? If he makes a quick flip, it's going to be Texas Tech. If it plays out for a while, then I think you're going to see a lot more contenders.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the biggest athletes I've ever seen in a long time. I remember I think he came to the Atlanta camp.
He did.
He's a 2025, right? So it had to be his freshman year.
Yeah.
And he was definitely the largest kid. He was definitely raw, but he was definitely the largest kid and probably one of the best offensive linemen. But
yeah,
I do have to say about Texas Tech, though. I mean, they kind of remind me, because I'm out here in California, they remind me of like when Nebraska was getting all those California kids, like that buzz, like Cali, Nebraska. Texas Tech right now just always seems like they're
I was there. I was at Nebraska during Cali, Nebraska, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that was like, they just had a lot of buzz. Yeah, like they just had a lot of buzz. I mean, even right now, they got Micah Hudson, 5-star receiver from down there. I mean, I know he's a little bit more of like a local kid, but still, that's a great gift for them. It just seems like every kid, for some reason, has Texas Tech somewhere in their 5, 10, 15, 30, 3. I mean, whatever they do nowadays. But, it's a program it's just a program that a lot of these kids are liking right now, and they always seem to be involved. And I mean, we like Ben and all those guys over there too. So, but it's just crazy, like how just like one visit can always turn it. I remember even growing up, they always used to say kids would always kind of take like a trip to Hawaii just because they just want to see Hawaii. But it's kind of true. It's like, I mean, they want to go see the things they can see. I mean, a lot of kids go on visits now, which I think isn't the NCAA going to fix some of that? I mean, I think there's been some articles about
unlimited visits. Still? You can go on as many officials as you want. Now, the caveat to it at first was the schools were still limited to the number of official visits they were allowed to pay for, and the NCAA, I believe, upped that number. So, I mean, I've talked to recruiting coordinators, I've talked to coaches who are like, we're not playing that game if we're not a legit contender for a kid. Like, we're not paying for them to come out on an official visit. Like, it's not, this isn't like a dog and pony show. I've talked to other college coaches, other recruiting coordinators are like, if we can get a top tier kid on campus, whether they think they're not interested in us or not, if we can get them here, we at least have a chance at them. And I think that's kind of, I mean, depending on resources, that's the approach I'd take. Like, I don't know. There's never been a time in my life. I mean, look at my ugly face. Like, if there was a hot chick in the bar growing up, like, I was at least going to shoot the shot. If you can get them on campus, you got a chance. So that's just the approach I would take, Corey. What would you do?
Well, I was actually going to ask you, since you kind of were in that coaching scene, and now with even kids, like, I mean, there's just every weekend kids are just taking visits and they're unofficial. All these kids are always on campus, and obviously the treatment and what you kind of get during that experience is different with all the rules. But if you were a coach now, I mean, let's say like for Nick, who lives in Iowa, he's probably at Iowa all the time. When he goes on his official visit, I mean, like, obviously there's other things you can do, but I mean, would you like that as a coaching staff, that these kids can all, I mean, like, obviously you want them on campus, but with having the difference of like the unofficial to the official, it just seems like they already have the relationships. I don't know. Like, I'm not answering the question quite like I want to, but it just seems like they're just like, I don't know, not redundant, but it's like, how much more can they do? I mean, as you as a former coach, or we hear, like, do they kind of be like, oh man, it's just like, it's just more things for us to do with these like all unlimited officials? I don't know.
I mean, I'm telling you, if I was on a staff, the last thing I'm trying to deal with is more visits for the sake of having more visits. But on the flip side, and I'll always be like this, I'm like, if it benefits the kids, if it's in the kids' best interest, like, let's do it. Why are we going to force a kid who might not be able to afford to go on an unofficial visit? Why are we making him pay out of his own pocket if a college is willing to? Like, let's talk about a free market in general. In business, if you want to hire somebody, or if you want to bring somebody in for an interview, you're not saying, well, you know what, come and drive out to Cupertino and see if you like the Apple campus. No, you're flying them in and you're bringing them there. And why should this market be any different? These are guys who bring value to a college. These are guys who might not have the means to travel everywhere on their own dime. So a kid who either has a coach that's going to take them everywhere, or a trainer that's going to throw them on a bus, or a 7-on-7 team that's going to throw them on a private jet and send them on a visit, what happens to the kid who doesn't have that? Why are they not allowed to have opportunity if a college is willing to give them that opportunity? And I'm always going to side with the kids on that. Yes, it might create a little more headaches, so to speak. Don't bring a kid on an official visit if you don't want to. But
True.
Just because you don't want to doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to. And so I'm going to side with the kids on this. I think that official visits should probably even be allowed to happen earlier. There's kids who are exhausting. And some of these kids they get a letter in the mail and they think they're being recruited by a school. And, dad's out there working the extra shift on the weekend so that they can pay for gas money to go to a school. And yes, they're going to have a cool experience. That's awesome. But they're going with the understanding that I got a letter from this school with a game day invite. These guys are recruiting me. If I go down there, I might get an offer. And there is no transparency on how all these things work. You got mailing lists, you send out all these things, and kids are all of a sudden thinking that they're a top tier recruit because they got a form, mailer in the mail, or snail mail, or email, whatever it is. And so you're not forcing them, but you're giving them the option that if you want to be a player in this recruitment, you can pay to come here and see us. We're going to give you free tickets in exchange. And I just don't think that's necessary. I think there needs to be more transparency about how the recruiting process works across the board. But like, if schools have the budget, if they're willing to pay for it, especially if a kid can't pay for it, why are we stressing somebody who's already dealing with bigger things financially, with the financial burden of checking out a school that's going to provide an educational opportunity and an opportunity to play football? But we're saying, the rules don't necessarily align with that. You can't pay for that. So I'm all for it. My recruiting coordinator friends, you guys can send me FU texts afterward. But
well, I was going to say, and to answer your other question about what I would do is, like, I don't know how these kids do it, to be honest. I mean, if I was any sort of an athlete in high school and went on official visits, I think I would have committed 5 times. Whatever the limit is, I probably would have committed. Like, every time I would have go places, I'd probably just love it, and I would fall in love because you're the guy. But I don't know how these kids choose at that kind of age, unless they just kind of know, or some kids kind of do it as a business. But there's no way I could ever do it. I mean, I would probably be that athlete that commits and decommits so many times that I'm probably going to be a red flag to all the coaching staffs because there's no way. I mean, but that's why
I'd be the athlete that tried to commit, and everyone's like, "No, you can hold off on that." So it's okay.
We're gonna make sure. We're gonna make sure one more time. Yeah, no, it's funny. Hey, I was actually gonna ask you. Have you kind of like seen Arizona? I mean, I feel like I'm on many podcasts right now, but I'm on the mush with Gorney and John, and we do our bets. We're doing okay, but one of my favorite picks right now is Arizona. I mean, I know you got a good relationship, or you've been around that staff and Fish and all that, but
Jedd's the homie.
Noah, yeah, right. But Noah, the quarterback, and T-Mac, they went to Servite out here where I'm from, and I wasn't super involved with Rivals quite at that time to go cover the games, but definitely always watch their games. I remember thinking like Noah was such a dog, and when they made that switch, I mean, the former Washington State kid, obviously I'm blanking on his name,
Delora,
yeah, great quarterback, but it's like Noah's got something, and sure enough. Wait, I think it broke up a little bit. What'd you say there?
I was saying he was freshman of the year in the conference at Washington State. Actually went down there in year 2 of Jedd Fish, and they were right on the brink of winning some big games. He was putting up big numbers. They ended up 5-7 in year 2 under Fish, but like they were right in some games that you wouldn't expect Arizona to be in. And yeah, dude, you watched Noah in high school, didn't you?
I mean, not to like the level I would now, but yeah, he was unreal. I mean, he's just got that dog factor. I mean, he's not very big. I mean, I think he's listed at 5'8", and that's sadly a little bit of a stretch, but he just like, every athlete at the D1 level has that dog, but some guys just have that extra gear. And I just always saw that in Noah, where it's like, just he's got that. And the good part is like one of his best friends from like high school is T-Mac, who's probably the best wide receiver in the country, right behind Marvin Harrison. In my opinion, he's so good, and they have like one of the best relationships.
You haven't seen Luther Burden?
I know. I mean, that's the problem, is the West Coast, Midwest, but T-Mac's awesome. We'll worry about him next draft,
T-Mac is big time.
But my favorite thing about Arizona, I mean, I know this week I believe they're a 10.5-point favorite, but it seemed like 3 weeks in a row, like Vegas had no idea what to do with them, and it was always 3 points.
I did.
Well, I did too. I mean, they were always my pick every week, but it just always cracked me up. It was like when in doubt, like Vegas, like just do 3 points. I don't know, 3 points. Like just like when in doubt, it was Arizona for 3, and I'm taking them every time, and they cover or they just beat them outright. And they're just playing with such fire right now, like such spark, and they got a lot going on there. And looks like they're just having fun, and looks like a good unit, which is good to see. I mean, I know obviously like the Pac-12's not going to be the Pac-12 really next year with all the same teams, but it's nice to kind of see like a good finish out of them, and especially with like Arizona's, who have been kind of like a walk in the park for a couple of years. It's nice to see them and just the whole conference in general on the West Coast be really really impactful and really competitive. It's fun this year.
No, it is. And like Arizona, and I started out at Wisconsin, but I actually graduated from Arizona State.
Oh, you're a Wildcat? I didn't know that.
No, I'm a Sun Devil.
Oh, you said Arizona State? Oh,
yeah,
my bad.
No, so I transferred. I got medically DQ'd, and I was like, I'm going to go to warm weather. I wanted to go to warm weather in the first place, but schools like UCLA and Arizona State wanted nothing to do with me, so I ended up in the cold. And but yeah, no, Arizona, it's an interesting story. And you mentioned my relationship. So Jedd Fish and I were on staff at Minnesota. I was a young guy. He came in, kind of took me under his wing, to be honest. His wife hadn't moved there yet. We hung out a lot. We talked a lot of ball, and I learned a lot from him. He had just come from the Broncos at that point. He had coached, I think, Jay Cutler there. And so we kind of hit it off. I mean, and anybody who knows Jedd knows the dude's a personality. Like he is just fun to be around. He's one of those guys that maybe you haven't talked to him in a year, but you see him and it's like, oh, we've known each other since kindergarten. So Jedd's just like that. So what's happening right now doesn't surprise me. He came in coming right after the COVID year, I think. So Sumlin, I think, was 0-5. So Jedd comes in, and all my friends, being down in Arizona, I got a lot of texts. Hey, what do you know about this Jedd Fish guy? And I'm like, well, it's funny you say that. Like, he's a buddy. They're like, are we getting a good hire? Because a lot of people were like, where did this hire come from? He's friends with the AD or something. I don't know what it was. I don't know what the stink was about. Jedd has quite the resume. He had, I don't know if he was coming from the Rams. No, he was the interim coach at UCLA, I think, at that point. I don't know. He was with the Rams before that.
So he did have a impressive resume, but unfortunately, it was also a giant resume where it's kind of hard to keep track.
Yeah, it was somewhere new every year.
I remember when they hired him. It was just like a lot of the recruits were excited because it just one of the best pitches that college coaches can do is like, I've been in the NFL, I've seen the system, I know how to get guys prepared for the system. So
yeah, he was the OC with the where was it? The Jaguars. He came up in the Texans organization and in the Ravens organization. Like, so here's a cool story about Jedd is he did not play high school football. So my good friend, Tony Sorrentino, who is the assistant receivers coach with the Vikings right now, his dad, Tony's dad, was the head high school coach in New Jersey at the high school that Jedd went to. So Jedd came out and he's like, I want to be a football coach. Now, keep in mind, Jedd's family is all lawyers and doctors and all this stuff. And Jedd wanted to be a football coach. And he started doing this in high school. So Jedd's plan was, he's like, okay, my next step after I learned this football from Coach Sorrentino, Tony's dad, was I am going to go and learn under Steve Spurrier at Florida. That was the mecca for him. And so he applied to Florida. He applied to one school and one school only because he was going to learn from Steve Spurrier. So, and it's funny because I was with Jedd before I was coaching at Dartmouth with a guy named Sammy McCorkle. This is a lot of things going into the story, but this is the coaching world, and this is great. Sammy was a GA Sammy was a GA. Now the head coach at Dartmouth, Sammy McCorkle, was a GA at Florida. Jedd goes to Florida to coach for Spurrier, but didn't necessarily have it lined up where he was just going down there and walking right into the office. So Jedd, being Jedd, was going to find a way in. And so he walked in the office and he would do anything. He would go and sit next to Sammy in class every day and be like, what do you guys need help with? Showed up to the office every day. And eventually you can't, especially a guy who has the talent, not only the willpower, but the talent and the smarts on top of it, you can't keep those guys out of it. And so he finds his way, gets in tight with Spurrier. Spurrier, when something comes up, is like, I've got the perfect guy for this in the NFL. And I can't remember who was the coach of the Ravens at the time, the guy who won the Super Bowl. Why am I going blank? But I think he ended up with him at the Ravens, and then the rest is history. So that's just who Jedd is. And he got them fired up at Arizona. And so the program was in dire straits. He comes in and, as he does, sold the vision to the fans. And they're like, it went from them being like, why did we hire this guy, to like, this guy is the savior of this program. And then they went out and had a 1-11 season. So that can put a damper on things. I've been there. When my first year in Minnesota, everybody was hyped up. We went 1-11. I think it was the first year that they played 12 regular season games. We were the first school to ever go 1-11. So I've been there. And then, but what he did is he stayed the course. He's consistent with his message. He's bringing in Gronk to, like, you talk about, I mean, Corey, you work in social media. He brings in Gronk to catch a football out of a helicopter to be like the highest catch ever made or whatever it is. He does it in practice. So all eyes are on them. He's bringing, positive things to the program. They go out, like you said, they land T-Mac. Now I'm talking with Jedd. Jedd came on the old coach's corner because I called up a lot of my buddies from coach's corner, and and they were gracious enough to come on. He was one of, I don't know, he was probably like the 5th or 6th or 7th guest. He was starting to pick up at that point. And, it was talked. It was just awesome talking to him. I hadn't talked to him in a while, but like, so he gets, this going. And then, he approaches recruiting the same way. He gets T-Mac, and he came on our signing day show. And I remember, and I text Gorney about this. I texted Adam Gorney the other night. I was like, did you know that Noah was a freaking dog like this back in high school? He's like, yeah, I knew he was a dog. He was like, he just didn't have like your usual measurables. He's like, but him and T-Mac have been playing together since middle school or something like that. And I remember talking to Jedd, and Jedd is great at selling his program, great at selling his vision. And that's, all successful coaches, if you're not great at selling your vision and getting other people to believe it with the same conviction that you do, you're not going to have the success that you need to be an established coach to sustain and take a program to the next level. Jedd is a genius when it comes to that. So he's talking to me, and I thought it was just kind of like, we took T-Mac's buddy but he's selling me like, Clint, this kid is unbelievable. He's phenomenal. Like, he's incredible, like all this stuff. And I'm like, all right, I didn't try to read through the lines or call. And I was new to Rivals. I had never covered the West Coast, so I hadn't done a deep dive on the kid. I just knew he was a short quarterback that had put up big numbers. And then just all of a sudden, so I get the emails from, I think, Jeff Bowe at Arizona each week about all their press releases and everything from Arizona. I'm like, wait a second. Noah Fifita wins Pac-12 Player of the Week. And then the next week, the email is Noah Fifita wins. Noah, sorry if I'm butchering your name, man. Wins Pac-12 Player of the Week.
It's close. It's close.
And then 4 straight weeks, the dude wins Pac-12 Player of the Week. Not only does he win it 4 straight weeks, the only week that he didn't win it on was a bye week. And the 4 is the most that Pac-12 players ever won it. It's Pac-12 freshman. I don't know if I was saying Player of the Week, but freshman Player of the Week. So, like, that's why I had to text Gorney. I was like, man, here all along, I'm thinking this is a +1 to the wedding, and the dude's the truth. So it's been fun to see it. And Arizona's rolling, and this will be in my 3-point stance whenever this airs. It will have already come out, but I talk about it. This isn't it's not a story that's talked about enough right now. People don't realize how bad the Arizona program was. They were horrible. And, like I said, 1-11, 5-7. They started 3-3 and had a quarterback controversy when Delora got hurt. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, same old thing. And then all of a sudden the switch flips. Arizona has beaten top 20 ranked opponents in the AP poll 3 consecutive weeks. 3 consecutive weeks.
The one game they also lost, they covered. They covered too. They've been a gambler's paradise for
it was USC, right?
Yeah, they I think they covered, and then it was the bye, and then they won the 3 straight. But even the one they lost was SC, and they should have won. They were in that game the whole time.
They weren't favored this week, and they won outright. I took a money line. I kind of saw this coming. I can't say that I saw it coming going into this year, but now you see it and you're like, this is what happens when it all comes together. And it's kind of cool to watch because they're a good football team. And let's be honest, their roster is not the same as a school like USC right now, yet they're playing toe-to-toe with them. Oregon State is such a good team right now. I knew home game at night, like they beat them. So 3 straight weeks beating top 20 opponents. They do that first time in school history. They're actually, and I know this from the press release, if this is correct, if I read it correct, we know my reading comprehension isn't always on point, Corey.
Same.
They, along with Alabama and Texas, I believe, are the only schools to beat 3 top 20 opponents this year.
Dang.
So Jedd's got it rolling, man.
Yeah. I was actually going to say, what we talk about when they almost beat SC and covered, I kind of felt like that's when the downfall of Grinch kind of started. I know before they played Colorado, but it was like, we survived. We'll figure it out. But Arizona, I think the week before Noah played, and I think he did well, but not to that level, but he did kind of came in when he got hurt or something. And then in that game, it just shocked everyone. And everyone was getting nervous about Grinch in the future, especially going to the Big Ten. But it seemed like after that game, that's when the wheels of the pressure started to build within that program and what's going on with Grinch. And then obviously this week we found the news that Grinch gets let go, after losing to Washington at home to one of the biggest shootouts. I mean, what was I think the over-under was something. I think they almost tripled it. It was just like, it was like a weird 7-on-7 game we had going on,
It was. I mean, it was dudes making plays. Washington hadn't been like lighting up the scoreboard in the previous weeks either.
I've been saying to day one, like Penix is going for it, and he's going to put all the points up. He wants the Heisman, and I whenever there's any sort of debate on who to pick and a pick 'em or whatever that, you always go Washington this year because Penix is going for it. I mean, he's rapping. I saw like right before they did a comeback. That's how that guy hypes himself up. It's a solo rap. I mean, he's freestyling to get going. That's how you know that's the dog right there.
That's the dog. He's got a little studio session going on the sideline.
Yeah.
I mean, well, Kalen DeBoer, sorry for the bug. Kalen DeBoer, head coach of Washington, phenomenal offensive line. He was actually the offensive coordinator at Indiana when he left Indiana, went to Fresno State, won there, got the Washington job, brought Penix with him to Washington. Penix, if you look at really Indiana, they had that one really big year, and that was when Penix was the quarterback, and it hasn't been the same there since. So, like, the dude elevates everybody's play around him. Washington has more talent than Indiana, obviously, but, him paired with DeBoer and all that. But here's my deal with USC, and this is a very unpopular opinion. Get ready for everybody to roast me and tell me I don't know anything about football. I probably don't. But I'm just telling you, and I've seen this firsthand, and I'm a defensive guy, so there is probably some bias here, but I'm also really big into analyzing everything, questioning everything. And I actually had this in my 3-point stance a little while back before Grinch got fired, and I said an extreme offensive person that only cares about offense, as gifted, skilled, smart they are, as great as their plays are called, you will never win a championship. You're going to win games. You're never going to win a championship if your play calling and your scheme and your offense is more important than the greater good of the program. Scoring points isn't going to happen every week. Your play calls aren't going to work every single time. In my opinion, an offense should never be stopped. You've got a bunch of dudes running backwards and reacting to you, and you only got to get 10 yards every 3 plays. It shouldn't be that hard. But good defensive teams, when it comes time to win championships, you've got to play defense. The offense is only going to take you so far. So this goes to my unpopular opinion. Alex Grinch is a fall guy here. Everyone's going to say, you're an idiot. Look at the stats. All they do is give up points. Let me tell you how a school that has a coach that is focused on the offense, that is focused on the points, scripts practice, recruits, goes about their day-to-day. Even if it takes timeouts. All right? Timeouts should always be for the defense unless you need to stop the clock to score points on offense at the end of the half or the end of a game. If you're taking a timeout to prevent a procedure penalty when it's 3rd and 18 at your own 12-yard line, or 17 and 12, you're getting kind of back where you can, be in the end zone. So that's a little extreme. All right. 3rd and 18 from the 36-yard line to stop a procedure penalty, you're wasting a possession. If you have 3 timeouts, you can always gain an extra possession. That's the difference in a lot of games, especially big-time games. So that's one thing. You're always looking for the offense as a head coach that is offensive-minded and only cares about the offense because in their head, they will score more points. Practice. We don't practice for the heck of it to make ourselves feel good about having a chance to win a game. We practice to get better. We practice to make sure all phases of our team are ready for a game. The defense. There's a defensive emphasis day. There's an offensive emphasis. There's red zone. There's goal line. There's everything. You practice all these situations with the full team in mind. And Lincoln Riley is a genius of an offensive coach. Okay. But when the offense becomes bigger than the program, the practice becomes about the offense. The defense is never put in a position to get better when you go best on best. It's called this defense against this play I'm going to run because I want to see how it works against our best players. So they script the practice towards the offense. They recruit towards the offense. Now they're going to recruit big time players on defense, thinking that, okay, we'll get enough good guys out there that regardless, we're going to be able to stop them every now and then. But really at the end of the day, everything from your game prep, from your game plan, from the way you go about everything in the program, how you treat the offensive players, like it goes throughout the whole program, and it goes down. There's a reason Mike Leach, and Mike Leach, one of my favorite coaches of all time, right? This dude takes places that couldn't win and makes them winners, okay? And that's what he was king of. Did he ever win a national championship? No. But he made the want-to-bees, he made them into contenders at least. They went bowl games. They won a lot of games. They lit up the scoreboard. They got fans excited. He was an entertainer. I love the guy, okay? But when you hire Lincoln Riley to go to USC, you don't hire him to win 9 games. You don't hire him to win 10 games. You hire him to win 12 games or 13 or 14 or 15 and win a national championship. If your emphasis is only on the offense, the defense is already at a disadvantage. Then you take in the game planning. It's all about the offense, the timeouts. I don't care if it's 3rd and 18, we're going to air the ball out. We might go for it on 4th and 6 because my play call is going to get us a first down. You know, when you're doing stuff like that, you're giving the defense short fields. You're giving them no chance. They're always down, and they're always on the field if things aren't going right on offense. It is not an equation to win. So Alex Grinch, you look at his defensive career, he was willing to take the hit and play for these extreme offensive coaches and really do a pretty decent job until things got out of hand this year. And so to me, Grinch is a fall guy for a flawed system under Lincoln Riley at USC. And this is no disrespect to Lincoln Riley as a coach. This is no disrespect to him as a play caller. He's one of the best we've seen. All right. The guy's a genius. But at the end of the day, it's not what you know. It's not what you can do on 3rd and 7 as a coach. It's what your players can execute. And it's how the team plays as a whole come game day. I have a friend who is close with Lincoln Riley, who played in the NFL. And he told me flat out, he's like, I love Lincoln. He goes, his teams will never win a championship. And this is when he was at Oklahoma. He's like, they will be soft. They will be about offense, and it will never be the team game. And I'm just saying, and I said this earlier in the year in my call, in my 3-point stance, I kind of said that you will not win a championship playing this style of ball. And I still don't believe that. And I still believe that Grinch was a fall guy. Put Grinch at Iowa, where they're, running the ball every single play. And it's about playing a team game and shortening the game and using brute strength to take away possessions from the offense or from the opposing offense. I have a feeling Grinch's stats wouldn't be so bad. But when you're airing it out every single play at total disregard for the rest of the team, the defense is going to take a hit. And sorry for my rant, but Grinch, I got your back. You are a fall guy, and you're getting undue disrespect from college football fans. You know ball, and those of us, and this is something that isn't talked about even in many staff rooms. It's talked about in defensive staff rooms across the country. And I guarantee you, the second he got fired, everyone's like, dude got pinched and it wasn't even his fault. And that's my unpopular take. Rip me apart, everybody. But I'm just telling you the facts, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know we're kind of running a little bit late on time, but I do want to ask you. I know I asked you before we started recording. You're kind of talking about like the image and the toughness. I mean, I know you have you do have a relationship with him, and he's obviously have experience within the Big Ten. I think right now he's just like the senior analyst at like Illinois or something. But like your boy Leonard,
Jim,
Jim. I mean, played in the NFL forever. I mean, he was going to get some head coaching jobs. wanted to kind of stay in the
Midwest. We were in the same class at Wisconsin. We were freshmen together in the same dorms and everything. I've known Jim for a long time. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like what I've been seeing like on the social media buzz, which is always just kind of like a wish list. But like real quick, I mean, is that like a guy that they should go after because he has experience within the conference? I mean, is that an unrealistic just even on the gym part? I mean, obviously it's a big stretch and you don't know what they're going to do at SC with what's going on, but is that a guy they should kind of look at, or is that just a little bit of a stretch that fans are just hoping for?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at them all you want. Even if you land them, the results might be a little different, but I don't care if Dick Butkus comes back for the grade, plays middle linebacker, and calls the plays at USC. The defense may get a little better. I mean, but the philosophy has to change before the defense becomes anything in that program. And I have not talked to Jim in a while. Now, we talked a bunch when he was interim at Wisconsin. But it's been a while. There's, I'm not going to go into detail, but Jim probably ain't moving to LA to coach at USC. And I guarantee you, now Jim's a competitor though. And Jim, even if he believes with every single thing that I just said, would be like, he's almost like he's got that same mentality that Lincoln has with offense. He's got that with defense. He'd be like, well, I can fix it. Like, and I wouldn't put him past him too, but at the end of the day, there has to be a philosophical change for the defense to be markedly better. Yeah, maybe they'll get 6 points better, 8 points better, but that's still not going to win them a national championship. I don't see Jim taking that job. I don't see him. He's smart enough to know that that's not a situation he wants to put himself in. Hey, but if the money's right, you never know. Not that he needs any money. He played in the league for a long time. His wife's very happy living in Wisconsin. He's an analyst at Illinois, but they still live in Wisconsin. And USC fans, it probably ain't happening. But until I talk to Jim and can rule it out, I'm not going to say it's off the table. At the end of the day, as much respect as I have for Jim and as good as I know he is, I don't even know if Superman Jim Leonard can save that defensive situation there unless they get 11 first rounders.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I think you made very valid points about like it's kind of more than that. I kind of like that idea. I mean, he was already there and within the conference, but I kind of just from what I've heard stories from you in the past, it's like I just don't think it's going to happen with him coming out to LA. But anyways, All right, should we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I
feel like I can keep going for another. I feel like I keep going for another hour and a half, but I guess we could save it for the listeners.
Dude, it's like any phone call we get on. You call to ask me one question, and I'll start talking about 30 different things and going on rants. So I got a lot off my chest. Feels good. Sorry to anybody who decides to listen, but I'll work on it. We'll get better. And hey, we're not afraid of to touch on the big hitter topics, and I'm not afraid to give an opinion, even if nobody likes my opinion. I'm going to tell you how I see it. And this isn't my first rodeo. So whether you agree with me or not, I still got a rant or two left in me. I'm going to get you going on a rant one of these days, Corey, because I know you got some in you. You just you hold it in.
Yeah, one of my famous rants so far this year was New Mexico going to Texas A&M. I won this giant rant for no reason on the mush, and it turns out I was right. So thankfully it worked out. But no,
you're always right.
No, I don't know about that. My record's 500 or something, just below 500. But no, man, that's why we get. That's why you're the analyst. That's why you're the coach, and that's why I'm here to ask the big questions, ask the bold questions, and give my little Joe inputs as I do on any show that I'm on. But yeah, let's. I don't know why I click there. Let's wrap it up. I mean, that's been a great.
We got our handles on.
Like, yeah, I'll say now. Did that say no? The show is about to wrap up. I think we'll try to get a different overlay for next week and all that. But no, man, that was kind of fun.
This is like the music at the end of the. It is
the Oscars.
The end of the Grammys when they're trying to get him off the stage, or the Oscars. Yeah, they're like, get this dude off the stage. You're just gonna throw that up on when I won't shut up.
Yeah, no, all your rants have been great. I mean, this has been a great podcast. I let you kind of lead this one just to kind of because we're talking about more about your region and your relationship with coaches, but that's the beauty of this show is some weeks maybe I'll be guiding the questions or the answers and the discussion. So I don't know, man. It's been a great episode. I honestly
that.
think we could talk for another 2 hours, and it's been fun. I mean, but as I always wrap up any show I'm on, please like, subscribe, leave a comment so I can ask Clint, or maybe I can answer a question for you guys. Follow us on the handles that you see on the screen. We're going to try and make this a weekly podcast. I mean, if you guys like it, I mean,
let's go.
We'll be bold. If this gets 10 likes, if someone makes it this far and we get 10 likes on the YouTube, we'll make this a twice a week. You get a second episode within the week. I'll make Clint get on again.
I better call my family.
And fight all the bugs and tell his kid that he has to wait. He has to get back on the coach's corner with Corey. But anyways, that's been a great week. Great start to the show. Clint, always appreciate your time, man. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate you, man.
No worries. Anyways, I'm Corey. That's Coach Clint. It's been week 1. Later.